Hi, and welcome to Magnify. We hope you've had a great month on our podcast with our book club, a deeper learning episode from Mindy Brown, and all of our wonderful guests and contributors. I'm Sarah Collins, the podcast producer here, and you've heard me for the past little bit joining some of the episodes. So for the next month, we thought we would do something different and have our wonderful members of our Magnify staff join in and share some of their favorite past episodes. We've nearly reached 100 episodes, and I can hardly believe it. So our awesome team of women are going to come on this month and do what we're calling a little series of staff picks. You're not only going to hear sound bites from some of our amazing guests in the past, but also why these episodes are so special to the members of our team. Before we begin, we are so excited to let you know that we have some Magnify events coming in the fall. Head over to magnifythegood.com/events to learn more. You're going to want to register. While you're there, subscribe to our newsletter for inspiring messages and updates on those events. We are so grateful for you for being a part of our community. We can feel your goodness, your power, and your influence. Now, on to the episode. To kick us off for these staff picks, we have with us social media manager Elle Rees. Hi, Elle.
Hello, happy to be here.
Okay, Elle, tell us which episode you picked and why.
Okay, for this, I chose Cheering for Peace with Tammy Uzelac Hall. It was released last summer, and it was based on President Nelson's talk, Peacemakers Needed. At Magnify, we did a little study of different attributes of a peacemaker, and Tammy's was all about how being a peacemaker means you're someone who encourages others, encouragement. But I love this episode because right in the beginning, Tammy gets really real. And she talks about something that happened in her life, and there was some drama and an argument with someone she loved and cared about, and how it was really hard for her. And she's in the middle of it in this episode. It's not resolved. And I loved it because this is the walking the walk when it comes to living the gospel. We love talking about how nice we should be to other people and, we should be like Jesus, but where the rubber meets the road, life gets real and it's really hard. And I just love that she was willing to open and say that and talk about how, she really wasn't feeling very peacemaker-y at that time.
That's a great pick. I agree. I remember feeling like pretty similar to some of the things we're going to hear Tammy say, where the moment, I think, Elle, this is maybe one of your first picks from some of the audio that we're going to play next, but it's where it was where we all can remember probably where we were when Peacemakers Needed.
Where were you when Peacemakers Needed dropped?
Fully. And I think that it was that moment President Nelson said, you may be thinking this is a great message and there's a lot of people in your life who could really hear this Peacemakers Needed conversation. I remember nodding along. And then what does he say? He goes on to say,
he called all of us out. He said, actually, this is for you. It's not for the person you're thinking about. It's for you.
Exactly. So tell us this first part. Give us a little context for what we're going to hear from Tammy next.
Okay, so right off the bat, she and Catherine start talking, and she says, Catherine, I have to be honest, I'm not the person to be doing this right now. I am in an emotional place. I am feeling vulnerable, and some hurtful things were said, and I'm just not in a good place. It was so relatable because she said she loved President Nelson's talk when it was first given. And hello, all of us did. And then once this disagreement happened between her and someone, she reread his talk and she goes, I don't like his talk anymore. It's supposed to be for others. It's not supposed to be for us. Very optimism bias. This idea that kind of stuff is for other people, not for me. That stuff doesn't happen to me. And so I just love that she got real right away. And I'm going to get real for a second. Around the time the talk was given by President Nelson, I was giving some people in my life the silent treatment. Is it kind? No. Is it productive? No. Would any competent therapist recommend it as a way to mend a relationship? Absolutely not, but it's what I was doing. And this went on for a while, but then was telling someone about the situation, and then they said, okay, well, what matters more to you, being right and proving a point, or your relationship with them? And I mean, the answer was obviously my relationship. I could not imagine my life without these people in it. We were just going through a bump in the road. But it's not easy to do the work that President Nelson's asking us to do. It takes understanding and compromise and letting bygones be bygones, and I hated it in the moment. But in this episode, Tammy is in the middle of doing that hard work, and it's real life.
Listen, let's get real. All right. Here's the deal, Catherine. I am like the worst person to be on this episode right now with this topic. No, I really am. It's okay. When he gave this talk back in April of 2023, this is like a landmark talk, right?
Yes.
It's so good. And I'm hearing it. I'm feeling the spirit. I'm like, this is awesome. And of course, when he said there's probably someone you know who needs this, there was. I'm not going to lie. I thought of a few people, but I didn't. I'm listening to this talk going, that is so me. I'm a peacemaker. I love it. Well, 58 days later, unbeknownst to me, the spirit's like, well, get ready. Buckle up, sister, because you're about to have to prove this in your own life. And 58 days later, exactly, I'm counting it because something happened in my life where, it was and still is not good. Like I'm devastated. My feelings were hurt. Things were said. I'm not in a good place emotionally. And so now I'm reading this talk and I'm like, ugh, why? Why do I have to have this talk right now? I don't want to be a peacemaker. I don't. I want to be sad. I want to be hurt. I want to be angry. I want to go through all the feelings of the grief cycle. I just want to, I want to be in this space right now. I don't want to encourage at all. And when I read this talk, I have read it so many times in preparation for this. My notes, I have copious notes everywhere. I'm like, I'm not an angry person, though. That's the thing. Like, one of my spiritual gifts is the ability to be a peacemaker. I'm the oldest of 5. I take care of people. But this has really rocked my world. And so what did I love about his talk? Nothing right now, because it's kicking my butt. It's calling me to action, and it wasn't supposed to. It's supposed to call other people to action. Right?
You know what?
So there I am.
That's why you're on here.
Because
honestly, for the real, because so many of us have been there or we are there, and then we think, what's wrong with me? Because this is how I feel. And everybody else seems to be like, oh, so good at this.
I'm not here to give you any answers or platitudes. I'm going to give you the real, where this talk was hard to read. There were things that I read that I'm like, oh yeah, that resonated with me. Towards the end, there was a big aha where I was like, okay, that's what it means to encourage. Like, I'm excited about what the Spirit taught me at the end. I've been studying this for over a month, and it's taken me a month to finally get to a place where I'm like, all right, I might be okay. I think the Lord and our Heavenly Father get it, and they allow us some time. Like, it's okay to take some time.
Okay, one thing I have to say, I do love that Tammy knew the exact 58 days later, right?
I know.
But yeah, Tammy's so relatable. I can see why you picked this one. Being a peacemaker is probably a lifelong pursuit.
Yes, and like she said, she's right in the middle of it. She still is not in the mood to fix everything right now, and I think that's okay. As soon as something difficult happens between us and someone, it doesn't have to be fixed right in the moment. Like, we can take a little bit of time, sort through your thoughts, and work through it in the best way.
Yeah, we're not all born peacemakers is kind of what you're saying.
I'm not a natural born peacemaker. I do not have Tammy Uzelac Hall's spiritual gift of being a peacemaker.
And that's okay, right? Okay, so tell us what else stood out to you about Tammy's episode and why it made you feel like, obviously there's a place where she does get to being a peacemaker, or this resonated with you and you wanted to feel like, okay, I can be like this. I can aspire to this. So tell me what else stood out.
So next, Tammy shares a story, and it's about her daughter who was running for student council. And Tammy actually tells a story about herself that did not paint her in a good light. It was a moment when she wasn't an encourager. And I think we can learn a lot from this. I think the lesson she learned is so valuable and can help us in our relationships with others and how we interact with people. And it relates to what Jesus Christ did throughout his ministry.
This sentence right here, where President Nelson said, "My dear brothers and sisters, the best is yet to come for those who spend their lives building up others."
Mm-hmm. What I love about what the prophet is trying to teach us here is, if you are in the constant habit of building up others, always, if you're in the constant habit of encouraging people, I looked up the word encouragement in the Webster's 1828 dictionary. It's my favorite one to use. It says encouragement means the act of giving courage, confidence, and success. The act of giving someone courage, the act of giving someone confidence, and the act of giving someone success. If that's what your goal in life is, then you are building a foundation with everyone in your life that is positive, so that when times get heated or when there's discord, everyone's more apt to be peaceful about it, as opposed to this knee-jerk reaction where you hate the person and words are shared and it's explosive. I think that's what he's saying. Like, if you can live a life where you encourage people, then when you get in a fight with them, it won't be explosive because they'll know your heart, you'll know their heart. I would like to think at the times when I've been in fights with my dearest friends, where normally if we didn't know each other really well, we'd probably hate each other and walk away. But because we've known each other, we've encouraged each other through whatever it is, we know each other's hearts, and it's easier to just apologize and be a peacemaker. So I think for me, that was what it taught me, is how important it is to just start with that in every relationship so it's your foundation.
So can you think of an example of a time when either you were encouraging or someone was encouraging for you and that led to more peace in your life?
Well, I can tell you a time when I wasn't encouraging. So here we go, because this is the one that came to my mind. And this one stood out to me because when I read that question, immediately I'm like, oh boy, but no, I know when I wasn't and what happened because of it. So my oldest, she wanted to run for office in 7th grade. She came home so excited. She's like, I got the piece of paper and I'm going to run for student body office. And my reaction to her was, oh, that's interesting. Do you think you'll win? I don't know if you should run. Oh, the spirit immediately was like, you're an idiot. I mean, seriously, that moment was, what is your problem? You don't get to say that. You don't know if she's, and that is all the thoughts I had. Like, you're right. What is my problem? Seriously, why would I have said that? That is the dumbest thing in the world to say. So I apologized to her and I'm like, you know what? We're doing this. We are going full force. And we put up posters and we ran a solid campaign and she lost. But the next year when she came to me and said, I'm running for office again, I'm like, you bet you are. And we're doing this. And what I learned is from that point on, every time a child has come to me and said, I want to do this, I'm like, 100%. If you want it, I'll help you make that happen. Even though I know the odds are completely against this child, that there's just no way. It's not my job to not encourage that. And then I have friends right here. When my other daughter ran for office and she lost, she was devastated. And they found out. And they came over and brought her ice cream and said, celebrate your losses. This is the best. So they encouraged her in her losing. And I just, like, all this encouragement and all this wonderful, it just made my daughter feel at peace. And so that's my example of when I wasn't encouraging. And I learned a very good lesson.
This story is so relatable because I am a natural doubter. I assume it's not going to work out. If you tell me a business idea you have, I'll give you all the reasons that I think it will fail. That is my natural reaction. But in the moment, her daughter did not need someone who was doubting her. It has nothing to do with me whenever we have these interactions. It's about playing the role the person needs you to play. If they want to feel validated, if they want someone who will just listen, if they want you to offer actionable solutions, our job is to love and encourage and be who that person needs us to be in that moment. Jesus Christ cried with Mary and Martha when their brother died, even though Christ knew he was going to raise Lazarus from the dead. And even if he hadn't raised Lazarus, he has a perfect understanding of the plan. He knows he's going to see Lazarus in the next life. But he was there for Mary and Martha in a way they needed him to be. It's such a great lesson to learn.
Okay, hearing Tammy share this story just makes me love her even more. I feel like one thing that Tammy is so good at is being vulnerable and honest about her shortcomings, which if I know Tammy and I think she's an encourager, but in that moment, she literally came out of that saying she learned a really good lesson. And I think that humility is probably a really good part of why this episode resonated so much with us.
Yeah, I mean, once again, we love talking about how nice Jesus was to people and how we need to love others and we need to be kind to everyone and serve. But actually, the people that it matters the most with are the people we're closest to, our family, and that can be the hardest.
Oh, that is so true. And I know Tammy actually talks a lot about that. It's so easy sometimes. And why is it? It's so easy to serve others, serve people who feel like kind of that like distance, that they're an arm's reach from you. But the people in your inner circle, boy, that does take a lot of humility to encourage and be a peacemaker amongst those people.
Yeah.
Okay, Elle, get us into this last part that you picked from Tammy's episode.
Okay, this is one of my favorite parts. So Catherine reads a quote from President Nelson's talk about how the things we should say about others should be virtuous, lovely, of good report, or praiseworthy, which is so interesting because I've never thought of that, which is an article of faith, never thought of that applying to how I speak about others. And here's the thing. I'm not one of those people who walks away or shuts down the conversation when the gossip starts. Okay? I am a moth to the flame. I want to hear the latest tea. I want to know the hot goss. I wish I wasn't like this, but I am. I'm sorry. This is me owning it. I have to actively work not to give in. Like, this does not come naturally to me, okay? But I love the idea. It was said earlier in the episode, but President Nelson said the best is yet to come for those who spend their time building up others. And that building up, that's not just not gossiping. It's saying things that are the virtuous, lovely, good report, praiseworthy. It means encouraging others, making people feel good about themselves, finding commonalities, learning someone's humor or their love language, what makes them tick. And it's especially hard to do that when we don't like that person and others don't like them. I think that's one of the most dangerous traps. Nothing unites people like a common enemy. But we can make others look good even when they're not around. Be everyone's publicist.
Ooh, okay. Wait, tell me more.
Okay, so what's a publicist's job? Their job is to make their client look as good as possible, land them all the
Get them all the deals.
Yeah, land them in, top front of the newspaper in the press, tell them all the good things that they're doing. Be everyone's publicist. Let other people know what these people are doing that is so good and how they are contributing and share it with others.
So I think Tammy shares a story about this, and she kind of harps on that same sentiment that it's more fun to encourage.
Yeah, and she was caught in a moment where she was saying unkind things about someone, and her daughters heard it, and just she saw the look on their faces, and she could tell that they were like, "Mom, what?" And she apologized to them in the moment, fixed it. And I think, it's not that none of us will ever say another negative thing about a person ever. It's a little hard. But she caught herself in the moment. She knows next time. She knows her weak points. And I think we can learn a great lesson from that.
I love when President Nelson says this. Today, I am asking us to interact with others in a higher, holier way. Please listen carefully. If there is anything virtuous, lovely, or of good report or praiseworthy that we can say about another person, whether to his face or behind her back, that should be our standard of communication.
Yes. And I completely agree.
That was a little gut check for me. Is that my standard of communication behind their back with my husband or with my girlfriends? How have you tried to practice that standard of communication?
Oh, that is so great. I will tell you a very real experience I had. So I was talking about someone I grew up with in high school, and they posted some pictures on Facebook. And I was talking to my sisters about this person. We were talking about the pictures that they had posted, and we were making fun of the pictures of them. We're like, can you believe they posted that? Oh my gosh, seriously? That is exactly how I probably sounded. And I did it in front of my daughters who were teenagers, new teenagers, 12 and 10. And I had a major, major gut check, as you like to say. And I looked at them and I realized, who do I think I am? And I immediately stopped. And I caught myself and I just said, Lily and Sophia, I am so sorry you had to hear me say that. That was unkind, and I will never do that again. And I hope you never, ever do what I just did, because that was rude. And I mean, it was a real moment for me where I had to just get called out by the Spirit. Like, why would you say that? So I'm learning from all my bad mistakes.
What changed for you in that moment?
Seeing their faces as I was talking. Like, why would you say that, Mom? I mean, they were kind of looking like their eyes were a little doe-eyed, like their eyes were big. And I realized what am I doing? Yeah, that was a real moment.
So what have you done to not go back there?
A lot less social media. I just have that replaying in my mind. Like anytime I'm tempted to say something about the way a person looks or the way a person behaves, I just remember that moment because I don't like to apologize. Ugh. I mean, I will, don't get me wrong. I'll apologize. But if I don't have to, or if I can avoid a situation where I'd have to apologize, I'm going to check myself. And so I just remember that and go, yeah, I'm not doing that again. That was stupid.
Well, and I think it's way more fun to be encouraging.
Yeah, it is. And people feel good.
Yeah. When I think of this attribute as a peacemaker, I think it's fun. It's fun to lift people. It's fun to build people. It's fun to see their face and to be a part of that. So why would I not want to do that more when I in turn am uplifted and feel better instead of feeling terrible?
Totally.
Thank you so much to Elle for prepping these thoughts. Elle, thanks for being here.
Hey, I had a great time. Thanks for having me on the Magnify pod.
It's always fun to have our staff on the pod. It's so fun to hear from our team. And also, thank you so much to our contributors and to any of our guests who've been on the pod. Thanks, Tammy, for this wonderful message that we can reflect back on. Elle, you're giving us a little behind the scenes. We can pull back the curtain here because you're our social media manager. So tell our audience, tell us what we can be looking forward to. Give us the pitch for why we should be over at the Magnify community on social media.
Hey, the Magnify community, we have a lot of fun. Every week we tell you what we're going to be talking about that week and what you can look forward to coming in your inbox with the Magnify newsletter. We take points from the podcast and we share them with you, and we try to share all the good that we can.
Yeah, really great shareable things over there. A good part of your week to add a little more inspiration, a little more of the Savior's words and spirit into your lives.
Yes, and we want to hear from you. We want to hear your stories and your thoughts on these things. We love talking with the women in our community.
Thanks, Elle.